Sam Altman might be joining Microsoft. He might be rejoining OpenAI. Satya Nadella, Microsoft CEO, has spoken out, and he definitely has a message he wants you to know. Let's catch up on where we are in this OpenAI Shakespearean drama and talk about who's winning, who's losing, and where the key players stand as of right now. I'm Carly Riley. Before we dive into today's episode, please do subscribe to the channel if you've been enjoying these videos, like the video, comment. I really do love getting your feedback. If you're listening to this on the podcast version, you can always subscribe to the podcast by hitting that little plus button in the upper corner. And a huge shout out to our partners, Ledger, Web3Sense, and OpenSea. We'll be hearing from them later in the show. All right, let's dive right into this. Satya Nadella has been making the rounds lately. He spoke with Emily Chang of Bloomberg TV. He spoke with Kara Swisher on her podcast Pivot and On with Kara Swisher. He did a lot of what corporate CEOs do, which is didn't say all that much. But there is one message that he clearly wants you to know.
I am exactly where I was on Friday morning.
On Friday morning, we were very excited, committed, and confident. We were partnered with OpenAI, and we were partnered with Sam. And that's exactly where I am on Monday afternoon. That was the case on Friday. That's the case today. And I absolutely believe that that'll be the case tomorrow.
Nothing has changed. Microsoft is in exactly the same position. It was in the same position on Friday. It's in the same position today. It's going to be in the same position tomorrow. Microsoft is doing great. Nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. It's all good. They had Sam on Friday, they'll have Sam today, they'll have Sam tomorrow. And look, this messaging seems to be resonating. In general, the sentiment is that Microsoft is absolutely one of the winners in this whole situation. They still have their partnership and relationship with OpenAI. They potentially have the capacity to back out of that if they needed to. And they still have a partnership with Sam and Greg Brockman and other key players at OpenAI. Their stock has fully recovered since taking a big hit when the news was first announced. So it seems like in general, everyone is on board for this idea that Microsoft is in the exact same position they were on Friday. It's being valued the same. Everything is the same. But is it? It's certainly true that last week, Microsoft had a partnership with OpenAI and with Sam Altman. And this week, Microsoft still has a partnership with OpenAI and with Sam Altman. But other things have changed, including things that could actually be more detrimental to Microsoft. Matthew Price, who is the CEO of Cloudflare, I think put this really well in a tweet. I'll share that with you now. He said, contrary to what Kevin Roose and others have written, Microsoft was not a winner of the events of the last few days around OpenAI. They were in a much better place on Friday morning last week than they are today. Friday morning, they had invested $11 billion in OpenAI and captured most of its upside while still having enough insulated distance to allow Brad Smith, who's the vice chair and president of Microsoft, to claim things to regulators like ChatGPT is more open than Meta's Llama, and to allow any embarrassing LLM hallucinations or other ugliness to be OpenAI's problem, not Microsoft's. I think this is a really important point. And to put it another way, I mean, basically, with the investment in OpenAI, they could have their cake and eat it too. They could take credit for, they could utilize, they could claim anything about the OpenAI business that they found useful, but they also had plausible deniability. They had a way to kind of wipe their hands and rid themselves of any negative publicity. They could say, oh, we're a separate company. We let OpenAI run things the way they want to run things. It gave them an easy out for anything they didn't like about the business. But if Sam Altman and Greg Brockman, and we'll talk about this in a little bit, but 700 of the total 770 employees of OpenAI do in fact move over to Microsoft, they effectively now have just in-housed OpenAI, and they no longer have that distance. Now, the counterpoint to that is they may have just bought OpenAI at a crazy discount to the actual valuation of OpenAI, and that's what some would say is like, basically they've just gotten the OpenAI team and all they had to do was invest $11 billion. But that's also not really true. We don't know how much Microsoft is paying Sam Altman or Greg Brockman or any of these other employees that they would have to bring onto payroll. And Satya Nadella actually specifically in his interview with Kara Swisher refused to disclose any information about how much money they'd be putting behind this, how much investment they'd be putting behind this, how much they're paying for any of this. So we don't really know the total cost that they're taking on. To put this even more succinctly, again, going to Matthew Price here, he writes, in other words, sometimes owning a call option on an asset is better for multiple reasons than owning the asset itself. Last week, Microsoft roughly owned a call option on OpenAI. Today, at best, they own some fraction of the asset itself. Yeah, I think that's a really valid point. And I actually think there are other reasons why this is maybe not great for Microsoft. Specifically, they look kind of like idiots for not having a board seat. Satya Nadella himself has acknowledged that this was probably not the right move. And in his interview with Kara Swisher, he made it clear that this would not be happening again. Take a listen.
One thing I'll be very, very clear is we're never going to get back into a situation where we get surprised like this ever again.
Yeah, I mean, Satya was very diplomatic in all of the interviews he's given recently, saying all the right things, being an upbeat, positive, everything's all good kind of a leader. But you know that he was not happy to have been blindsided by this major move. Now, I don't think Microsoft is by any means a major loser in all of this. Like I said, you could argue both sides here. I just think that it's not necessarily the case that they're as categorically a winner as some think, or even myself was sort of thinking as of yesterday. But what about others? Where are the others in all of this? We've got other investors, you've got other employees. I want to talk about all of that. But first, we do need to hear a word from our amazing sponsors, Ledger and Web3 Cents.
Y'all know the phrase, not your keys, not your crypto. Well, in a world where too many people have had to learn that the hard way, Overpriced JPEGs is proud to partner with Ledger, the world leader in critical digital asset security. Ledger's Nano S Plus and Nano X hardware wallets, paired with the Ledger Live app, Ledger's own software for setting up your Nano device and managing your crypto assets, is the easiest way to start your crypto journey while maintaining full control of your digital assets. You can use all your favorite dApps with Ledger Live, accessing 15 plus Web3 apps, including 1inch, Paraswap, Lido, and Xerion. So you can not only manage, but also grow your portfolio. And Ledger Live is available on mobile and desktop. Securing digital assets shouldn't be complicated. Ledger is as easy as it gets. Uncompromising security, effortless connectivity, full transparency, Ledger is your one-stop shop to trade and track crypto, grow your assets, and manage NFTs. Secure your future with Ledger. Visit shop.ledger.com today or check out the link in the show notes. Let me introduce you to a brand new company that I could not be more excited about, Web3 Cents. A Web3 analytics platform that combines on-chain data with social media insights to give you the deepest, most meaningful intelligence into any NFT community. I have tested other analytics platforms out there, but Web3 Cents has the most comprehensive capabilities I've seen in the NFT ecosystem. They apply sophisticated data science to wallet histories to determine behavioral patterns and help shape predictive analytics. In other words, they can tell you which Twitter accounts are actually the influencers in your space. And they can tell you what resonates most within a community by looking at what other communities token holders are involved in. The number of use cases here is virtually unlimited. So whether you're a trader, creator, institution, brand, agency, I promise Web3 Cents has data that you want to see with the deep and actionable insights that you need to build, analyze, grow, start, whatever you want to do within the NFT space and in terms of building a business and a community. Now, they are still in very early days, so they're eager to connect with the community. So if you're interested in learning more about what Web3 Cents can do for you and your business, and you should be, go and fill out the very short form linked to in the show notes, and someone from their team will reach out with more information and an opportunity for a product demo. Trust me, you won't regret it.
All right, we are back. Where are the other major players on this? Let's talk about some of the other investors in OpenAI, as well as the employees, and specifically check in with our friend Ilya Sutskever, who we've been talking about quite a lot in this. He is the chief scientist at OpenAI and the one who is believed to have really kicked off and led this coup, though now he is backtracking. So starting with first, Thrive Capital, who had a deal on the table to buy shares of OpenAI from their employees at a price that would value OpenAI at $86 billion. As of right now, that deal is still on the table, but it appears to be very contingent on Sam Altman and Greg Brockman being reinstated and the board stepping down and essentially reversing course on everything that has happened. Now, this has been reported that Thrive Capital and others are backing Sam and Greg, standing against the board, with Bloomberg's Ashley Vance reporting that they were even leading the charge to bring Sam and Greg back to OpenAI. Josh Kushner, who is the brother of Jared Kushner and also the founder and one of the managing partners at Thrive Capital, retweeted that article and clarified, saying, OpenAI employees are leading this effort. We are simply supporting them. Founders deserve to run their own businesses. So Josh clearly corroborating the idea that they are fully backing Sam, fully backing Greg, that they want them back in place, but that really they are just taking the lead of the employees at OpenAI. Speaking of the employees at OpenAI, we talked about this yesterday. At the time that I reported yesterday, 505 employees out of 770 employees had signed an open letter to the board, basically saying we will resign and we will move to Microsoft with Sam Altman and Greg Brockman unless unless you, the board, resign and you change course on everything you have done. Since then, that number has gone up to over 700 employees. Around 700 of the total 770 employees have now claimed they will resign and go with Sam and Greg unless the board changes everything that they have done. Which is, I mean, in some ways, it's staggering to me that the board hasn't just backed down at this point, because even if you give the board as much credit as you possibly can, which I talked about in yesterday's episode, which is to assume that they really have good intentions here and that they really genuinely were worried about the pace of innovation happening at OpenAI, and they genuinely believed that things were moving too quickly and something was happening irresponsibly. At this point, you don't have a company anymore. So this is truly, at this point, a moral crusade without any real backbone, because there is no company if you lose 90% of the employees and all of your key investors hate you. You have made your point. You have stood your ground. You can look your kids in the eyes in 10 years if everything has gone to shit and say, look, I tried. It didn't matter. I was overrun. And speaking of the board, 2 updates on the board. One is that Helen Toner, who we've talked about before, she is the director of strategy at the Center for Security and Emerging Technology at Georgetown. Some reports are indicating that she is now the one really leading this charge. She's the one where there's the most friction or the widest distance between her and Sam Altman. I'm not 100% sure that that is true, but that is what one report is saying. Of course, we know that Ilya Sutskever, who was previously thought to have been the one leading this charge, and who may in fact have been leading this charge at one point, he's the chief scientist at OpenAI, he has now reversed course, and he is now backing Sam and Greg and claiming that he will go with them to Microsoft. He has signed this letter saying that we will leave for Microsoft unless this decision is reversed, which I covered yesterday because I do find that pretty staggering, that you would have made this decision but not have had enough conviction in this decision to stand by it once it had been made. I mean, I just feel like it's like, nice company you have there. It would be a shame if I did something and then totally backed out of the thing that I did that ruined the company and now I want the company back. Like, it's just, it's kind of wild. In any case, one report is claiming that Ilya Sutskever flipped his position following intense deliberations with OpenAI employees, as well as an emotionally charged conversation with Greg Brockman's wife, Anna Brockman, at the company's offices, during which Anna Brockman cried and pleaded with him to change his mind. Another fact about this is that Ilya Sutskever was the officiant for Anna and Greg's wedding ceremony, which was held at the OpenAI offices. Honestly, I kind of love this. I would love if Anna Brockman crying to Ilya Sutskever becomes the thing that repairs this whole situation. We've talked about this before, but basically you needed 4 board members to kick Sam and Greg out, and I believe you need 4 board members to bring them back in. So right now you have 3 and 3. And it seems like Adam D'Angelo is the one that they're hoping will crack. For the people who want Sam and Greg brought back in, it seems like the best hope is that Adam D'Angelo, who is the founder of Quora, might be one that they could get to flip back over to be with Sam and Greg and now Ilya. Finally, we have Sequoia Capital, who is another investor in OpenAI. They have said very little, but it has been reported that they are backing Sam and Greg along with all of the other investors in this case. I think it's pretty fair to say that the investors or those who are considering investing or were in talks to finalize a round of investment, they are the losers in this situation. This is obviously not what they want, Microsoft being a huge investor, but they have managed at least to acquire Sam and Greg and to keep that relationship alive. I think Sequoia and Thrive and Khosla and these others, these would be the absolute losers in a situation where OpenAI loses all of its employees, basically becomes a shell of the company it once was, and everything now belongs to Microsoft. The employees themselves, it's hard to know. I mean, they are getting offers from everyone and everywhere right now. It's open season on OpenAI employees. You have Mark Benioff tweeting that he will match the compensation and give all sorts of stock options to anybody from OpenAI who wants to leave and come join Salesforce. The OpenAI employees have some options now, not that they didn't before, but they are being presented with how many options they have. They are seeing just what hot commodities they are. So I would say the employees are winners in that sense, probably losers in the sense that they're watching the company that they loved and as of a week ago thought was their future being burned in front of their eyes, but they'll land on their feet. Finally, I think one of the big questions around all of this was, where do the IP rights for everything live in terms of everything that OpenAI has built?
And now, of course, the question is, how is this all going to work in the future with Sam and Greg at Microsoft? What do they know? What can they take from the world of OpenAI and bring that to Microsoft?
And the answer to that, at least according to Satya Nadella, is effectively with Microsoft. This is Satya Nadella, again, speaking with Kara Swisher.
We have all the IP rights and all the capability. We can, go and just do what we were doing in partnership ourselves.
They can do everything they were doing in the partnership themselves. So again, I do think that all things equal, Microsoft is definitely coming out better off in this situation than could have been the case. I do think that there are some negative ramifications to this that Satya maybe doesn't want to address in his rosy picture that he wants to paint for the public and for shareholders, et cetera, et cetera. But by and large, it sounds like Microsoft, they may not have had a board seat, but they did at least make sure that they had all of the rights they needed to have. And of course, they have the data and the compute and all sorts of other things that OpenAI was using to build their models, to create ChatGPT, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, folks, thank you so much for watching this. Please do let me know where you stand in all of this. I so appreciate you watching. And if you enjoyed this content, please do consider subscribing to the channel, liking, commenting. If you're listening on the podcast, you can subscribe with the little plus button up in the corner. And as a reminder, I will not be doing an episode on Thursday, as that is Thanksgiving here in the United States, but I will be here tomorrow, so I will see you back here tomorrow.